So Ginger was our first dog, and she was a German Shepherd because I always loved German Shepherds. So probably not the right dog to start with, right? Not knowing anything about them, but she was my girl. When we went to the breeder to look at the puppies, I was sitting on the floor. There were 9 puppies. I think there were 5 boys and 4 girls. And I was playing with them all, and this little tiny fluff ball came walking up, looked at me, and leaned against me. And I was like, that's the one. Like, she chose me, and I was like, we're taking her home.
Kristin, that's so funny. My family's first dog, like our family dog, Shone, she was a German short-haired pointer.
Oh, beautiful.
I was a kid when we got her, and we went to the breeder. And I think there were more than 9 puppies in that litter. But the reason she came home with us is, 1, because they had nicknamed her Miss Piggy. And 2, because she fell asleep on my mom's feet.
Oh.
And it was just like, yep.
That's
she
the
chose
one.
us.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing how they do that?
It is. And the breeder was like, she's really chill. She's not your normal, like, neurotic shepherd. She's just going to be, like, very quiet. And I was like, okay. So we brought her home. We actually brought 2 puppies home because then my husband was like, well, I want one too.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, okay. So he ended up getting another female, and he, of course, picked the alpha. So it was not a good match. Greta, that's what he named his puppy. She ended up going back to the breeder after like 10 days because she was just so brutal to Ginger. She wouldn't let her eat. Anytime Ginger would go into her crate, Greta would go in and kick her out of her crate. She would bite her ears and I was like, we can't have this. So unfortunately, it was a hard decision, but we had to call the breeder, and they're like, yeah, no problem. And as soon as Greta left, Ginger became her own person. Like, it was really sweet. And we had her for 10 and a half years. She would go to daycare because we were both working at the time. So she would go, and she was they called her the Zen mom, because she kept order. If she saw anyone, another dog bullying another dog, she would go and break up the fight. She was like a protector. She didn't really play with other dogs. She was more of an observer. But I was her human, like, from the start to the very end. Like, Kevin would come in from doing anything, and we would joke around, and I would yell, ow, and wherever she was, she would come flying into that room and stand between the 2 of us and just look at Kevin like, what are you gonna do?
Don't touch my woman.
Yeah. And then I retired in 2017. So it was just me and Ginger, and like, she was my shadow. Wherever I went, she went. She's a very sweet girl to most people. She didn't care for my in-laws too much.
Oh my God, so funny.
Right?
Did she pick up on some unlikeness that you had for them?
Well, that's what they always assumed, but I was like, I didn't think I was doing that too obviously, but
unspoken discomfort,
right?
Dogs know.
They do. Whenever my mother-in-law would laugh, Ginger would go right up and be like, quiet. I don't like your laugh. So she was a really good girl. She never destroyed anything.
That's amazing.
Right? We still have her first toy from when she was a puppy. Like, she never destroyed toys. She did not go up on the furniture. You could leave a bag of treats on the floor and walk away, and she would just sit there and stare at them.
Gosh, that's unheard of with puppies.
Right? And the only thing she would do, and it was hysterical, is she would she would jump up on our dining room table and sleep.
She slept on the table?
Yeah.
That's
when
interesting.
we weren't home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we would pull into the driveway, say we were out with friends, we'd pull in the driveway, and I'm like, I think she's on the dining room table.
Did she have a good view of like out the windows from there?
Yes.
She's watching for you.
Yeah. But yeah, she loved the dining room table. And she never hurt it. Like she would just like floop up onto the table. It wasn't like a run and a jump. It was from like a sitting position. She would just hop up and that was it. So
did she do that all through her 10 plus years?
She did.
Wow, that's great. Because I know German Shepherds often have back hip issues,
right?
As they age.
Yeah.
Just given the way their spine's structured. Did she have any of that?
So she did not have any hip issues, but what brought her to the end was, and we had found out, so one day I was sitting in the dining room doing some, I don't even know what I was doing, and she always laid on the floor next to me. And when she laid down, her head went thud. And I was like, well, that doesn't seem right. And then I would watch her, and this, like, she could never just set her head down. It always hit. So that was like for 2 weeks. So then I called the vet. And at that point, like we had to carry her in and carry her out. And they said it's definitely neurological. She declined quite quickly. It was from, let's see, Memorial weekend in May, and then she passed on June 11th. So it was a very short time span.
Wow.
But we did take her to Orchard Park Animal Hospital, and they have a neurologist for dogs, a neurosurgeon for dogs, which I was shocked that there was such a thing. But I think, it was good. So they did an MRI, and what it ended up being is she had multiple herniated discs in her neck.
Yikes.
And it was causing her to, like, we would be out for a walk and her front right paw would kind of trip her up sometimes, but it got to the point where she would just fall.
Oh, no.
And then with the head hitting the ground, and then she couldn't go up and down stairs anymore.
What did they say about the herniated disc? Like, do you recall her getting injured at any point that would have caused that, or was it just like degeneration?
Yeah, I think it was just degeneration. There wasn't any one or specific incident. I mean, she loved to run. She loved to catch balls and frisbees. So it could have been any one of those times. So what was really hard was when the neurologist called the neurosurgeon called us to say what the issue was. She said, the good news is that it's not cancer or a tumor of any sort. And I said, okay, what is it? And she said it's multiple herniated discs in her neck. And I'm like, well, how's that good, right? Like,
yeah.
You can't fix her at this point.
And that's painful too, I would assume.
Very painful.
Sorry, Kristin, how old was she at this point?
She was 10 and a half.
Okay, sorry, I messed up.
Yeah. So we got her at 8 weeks, and she lasted until 10 and a half, which was pretty good.
Our German Shepherd lady just turned 11. And we're like, oh my. That was honestly a big part of the reason. I mean, it wasn't like the reason, but like Nate was like, I can't go another year. Like I can't miss another year of her life because I know we're getting towards the end. Like we're very lucky she doesn't have any of the hip dysplasia or anything like that. But when you were talking about how Ginger liked to be like up looking out, oh my God, we have a bench at home in Buffalo, and she sits on this bench. And the funniest thing is that she's like this 90-pound dog, and the bench is like tiny. And every time people see her on it, they're like, "She really comfortable on that?" I'm like, "Yeah,
it's her
spot.
I don't know.
That's her spot.
Right?
She's got to be looking out, and she does not bark unless it's the mail lady or we're not home, and then she is guard dog like no other.
Yeah.
Like So, but Ginger sounds a lot like Lady in the sense that she's not like, I don't know, she's not like the crazy shepherd. She's the very docile, very lazy, just like,
Yeah.
we bring her anywhere. We really don't have to have her on a leash. I know some people judge people for that, but like genuinely, she's not moving from our side. Like,
right.
If Nate disappears, she's like, what's going on? Like, where is he?
Like, where's my pack is broken up. What happened?
Yes. Like, this isn't acceptable.
It's so nice how committed they are. That's why they're such great pets.
Was it like a fast decline from like getting that phone call to, you know, ultimately when you had to send her over the rainbow bridge, so to speak?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember when we got her in, but I do know I was upset with myself and I was upset with the vet because when she said, you know, she's got these herniated discs and some are new and some are old. She's like, but I don't recommend surgery. And we said, is there anything like, can she still live a good life? You know, like what's, and she said, oh yeah, if it was my dog, this is what I would do. And so what we ended up finding out is she wanted Ginger to be in her crate for like 6 weeks without having to move on. They wanted us to put her on prednisone, but not until she started eating again. So that was the other thing. She had stopped eating and drinking. And I look back at it and say, had I asked the right questions when we were talking with the vet, as far as like quality of life and how do you expect me to put a 10-and-a-half-year-old dog in a crate for the whole day for the next 7 weeks? Like that's...
And what kind of a life is that?
Yeah. Like we never crated her. When like she never got into trouble. So the crate would have been very foreign to her.
So what did you end up doing for those last?
So for the last few days, I think we brought her home from the animal hospital on a Thursday. And that Saturday we called Lapse of Love, which is a...
home euthanasia?
Yeah. So we called on Saturday and because we said we can't, I mean, she's just suffering so much. Like I was sleeping on the floor in the foyer with her at night because she couldn't go up the stairs.
Yeah.
And I loved every minute of it, but I was also like, I can't believe, this is going to be it. So Lapse of Love, we called them on Saturday, and then on Sunday they came over. Dr. Michelle was phenomenal. We carried Ginger's favorite bed outside into the yard because she loved being in the yard. And Kevin carried her out and put her on her bed. And we waited for Dr. Michelle to show up. And it was so beautiful and so peaceful. And it's like we got to be with her through the end of it. And she was at home, which was fantastic. And she was in her favorite place. She was out in her yard. And but it was way hard. And with us, it was so much harder than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, same.
Friends of ours, once we let them know that she had passed, they sent us this book called Dog Heaven. Have you guys ever seen it?
I have.
I have not.
So I still haven't looked at it. I can't look at it yet. Kevin read it after a little while after she was gone, but he said, don't do it yet. And it's been a year and a half and I'm like, nope, I can't look at it. Can't do it. Someday I will. But it's supposed to be super beautiful. It's illustrated beautifully, and Kevin said it's very touching.
Yeah.
It was an extremely difficult decision to make, but we were glad that we could be with her. And it's just one of those things, like they're with you for such a short time.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. Like I think my one sister and I were talking about this, and this may upset some people, but like our dad had passed in December of 2019, and he was at home. He had hospice at my parents' house, and we were with him through the end. And my dad and I were like super close. And when he died, it was a peaceful event because it's the way he wanted to go. But I still, it's my dad.
Yeah.
But when we made the decision for Gigi, honestly, part of me felt like that was harder than losing my dad.
It's a complicated feeling because for me, I felt with my dog Isabel, I felt very grateful that I had the time to like properly say goodbye and be with her in a very peaceful and, non-painful way. Say goodbye to her. But at the same time, you're choosing to make a decision to say goodbye, and that decision for at least weighed on me, even though I knew it was the right thing for her. And, in the home euthanasia vet that I used, she was wonderful and very supportive. And I'm so thankful for that. But it's, just making the decision to do it is one of the most difficult decisions. And I felt guilt just deciding to do it, even though part of me knew it was right,
Right.
And I think because, for some of us, they're like our child, like our first child is our dog, and we spend so much time with them. Part of it feels kind of wrong in deciding to end their life, even if they're not well.
Right.
So it's just, and then you're sad. So there's just so many layers of emotion around it.
Yeah. So after, and like I said, Dr. Michelle was amazing. I mean, she did it with such dignity that it was just beautiful. But like the next morning, it came downstairs and I was just like, what do I do now?
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
Like
so much of our routine, they're ingrained in so much of our routine / drive so much of it sometimes,
Right.
Like I feel like even when people talk to us about losing their humans, it's like, but I had to get up to feed my dog or my cat. You know what I mean? Like they help you put one foot in front of the other on your very bad days and even on your good days, like, okay, maybe I don't want to do today, but
right.
that
They do.
Coming home without them is like so hard. We wanted to do laps of love, but unfortunately Lily had it was the most insane thing to witness, but she had a seizure. We knew we were getting to like the end, but long story short, like Nate had been away for army training, like for like the 2 weeks that she was kind of like declining. And so it was like I think the weekend we got home, he got home, we had all these visitors. And obviously you're not like saying, please pause, we'll be right back, we just got to go put our dog down, the vet was like, you really should do it like soon. And I was like, at that time I was like, this isn't my decision to make. I think she was very confused, like why I was at the vet with the dog. But I was like this is like his, like it's our dog, but it's his dog. Like, so
right.
Oh my God, but I will say, like, we kind of look back and like her last full day, she was just in her little Christmas sweater, napping under the Christmas tree all day while I was working and Nate was working and doing some things on the house. And she just like was so peaceful. And I was like, I felt a lot of comfort just from that, despite her, having that seizure. And we just had to like rush to City Creatures. And I have to say they were very good. Like it gave me like a whole new, I don't know, what's the word? Not perspective, but like just thankfulness for them. I don't think that's the right phrasing, but I was like, I'll come back here forever.
That these great people exist to help in this situation.
They had seen Lily a lot in her final days, and They all like remembered her, and again, like I don't know if someone like went in the back and was like, Lily, it's Lily, like make sure you say something to them, you know what I mean? But regardless, like they were on top of it, and like everyone
Yeah.
was kind about it. I don't even know if we paid like there was, which like it's not cheap. I can't remember what it was, but
No.
all they did was like, did you want her paw? Do you want a lock of hair? And all that stuff. So like they really did. I feel like we got like what we would have gotten from Laps of Love, and in retrospect, like I might actually go to them in future, simply because I'm also like slightly worried about having that in my house and then having to like look at it to remember, like, you know what I mean? I don't know, like if I know it'll be like if it's in their spot, their favorite spot in the house, like do I want that to be like the last memory? I don't know if you felt a certain way about that.
I definitely still look at this section of my kitchen because it's kind of like its own little alcove, and I'm constantly, especially right after I had to say goodbye to her, like in the following weeks, I was definitely just standing there, like standing and crying. And so I can understand not wanting to do that in your home, because then you're constantly like having to kind of relive it over and over again, which is not necessarily the best way to heal.
Right.
Depends on who you are, I guess. But, sometimes it's better to just move forward, as hard as it is.
It did take me a while to move her beds. So she's definitely a spoiled girl. So she had a bed in the living room, the dining room,
I love
the
it.
family room, the office, and in our room. And I came down the next morning and I just sat on her bed and just cried. Kevin came downstairs and he was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "I'll be okay. I just need this right now, right? Like I need to feel her."
Mm-hmm. And did you say it's been 1.5 years since then?
Yes. Yeah.
How long did it take you to start kind of putting her things away, and what did you do with her stuff?
So it took me I'm trying to think. It was in June 11th of 2023 when she crossed over the Rainbow Bridge, and I couldn't go back to the shelter right away. So Ashley and I volunteer at the city animal shelter and we walk the dogs, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this just yet. And I ended up going in maybe like 3 weeks after she had gone, and I thought it would be good, right? Like, because I just love dogs. Like, I just love them. And I thought, this will help to fill the void. And I ran into another volunteer who I'm good friends with, and she just looked at me and she started crying. And I'm like, please don't do that.
There I go. Yeah.
Right? Like, I haven't even walked in yet. And she's like, "I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "No, it's, and it was great. It made me feel really good that she was there and that, she was caring for me." But I went in and I walked one dog and I had to leave.
Yeah.
And then Kevin, we had talked about when do we think we can get another dog, right? And Kevin said, I think I need to wait a year. And I was like, I cannot wait that long. Like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So once we made the decision to get and we got another shepherd, her name is Violet. Kevin found a breeder in Dansville, New York, and that's when as soon as I made that commitment, that's when I was like, okay, I need to wash all her beds. We didn't throw anything out. We washed everything, all 5 beds, all of her toys, her blankets, everything. Like we still have her collars, her leashes. They're all packaged up. And then we got Violet. And then Violet decided she didn't like any of the beds.
These aren't mine. These are someone else's.
Exactly. And so she systematically shredded each one of those beds.
Well, isn't that nice? She's the total opposite of Ginger.
Just total opposite of
Tearing
Ginger.
everything apart.
Right. Which is, it's good too, because I never wanted to compare, the kids at all. I wanted them to be their own individual. And Violet helped by saying, I don't think you should have this here anymore. Right?
That's nice. I have not gotten another dog yet. It's just been over a year. And honestly, I'm not ready yet. I miss having a dog, but I'm not ready to move on to a different character yet.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I will want it to be a different character. Obviously, like Isabel will not be here again. Maybe in another form. I don't know. If I'm lucky enough, that would be amazing. But yeah, I'm not ready to welcome a dog with a different personality yet.
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, is like you have to be ready to
You do.
take really on whatever personality comes along, right?
Yeah. And it was interesting. So Ginger died in June of 23, and we had Violet in October of 23.
Okay.
And he was not warming up to Violet. He was like,
Kevin.
Kevin. He was like, I need to see how this is going to go. So,
give it time, right? Develop a new relationship.
Yes. And now it's so interesting because Kevin is her human. So I was Gigi's human.
You need another one. Violet needs a sister.
That's what I said. And Kevin was like, nope. It was like, maybe not just yet.
Yeah, we have Lady is like Nate's her human, and Molly, like, she's my whatever, you know what I'm saying? That was like very that actually is probably the only thing that helped, is coming home to 2 dogs still.
Yeah.
Like, it was, I think I'm like, we will always have 2, because I literally cannot imagine like not coming home to one at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And like it was still like so weird, because like in her like final years she was deaf. So we would come home and she wouldn't know that we were home. So we'd always have to go around and be like, "Where's Lily?" And she'd be in a deep sleep. And we'd have to be like, "Lily, we're right." And then she'd wake up and get all excited.
Yes.
So it wasn't like she came running to us, but like it was this thing where, and both of us kind of like did it when we came in the house like a bunch of times, like right after. And then sometimes like Molly or Lady, mostly Lady, would kind of like alert her, like, "They're home, let's go." Like, get over here.
Yeah, I think maybe the next one I get, I have a 3-year-old daughter, and she's obsessed with dogs and cat. I mean, all animals, but she's always been, and I think it's because, when I brought her into this world, Isabel was here, and she used to crawl from the moment she could start crawling, she was in my dog's bed. We have so many pictures of her crawling into Isabel's bed. So the next dog will be her dog, and I think that'll be, I mean, obviously I will end up taking care of the dog most of the time, but it'll be her dog, and I think it'll be different in that way, because I'll be getting a companion for her probably, which I think is so important. Obviously, they make a huge impact on our lives.
They do. It's so funny because Kevin and I just got so used to Ginger's, I call them isms, because, the doorbell rings and she would like bark her head off and go charging towards the front door. And then a doorbell would ring on TV, like in a commercial or in a movie, and she would freak out again, like those little types of like that's just what she did. And when she was gone, we still kind of like, when we heard a doorbell or somebody knock, we would just like cringe, right? Like, oh, she's gonna bark again. Like, that's how much she was in our lives. It was just like, you're just, even though she wasn't there, you still had the same reaction of, okay, she's gonna go crazy.
Oh, totally. I still have moments of where I'm out and about and thinking about I need to go home to take the dog out. And then I'm like, wait a second, I don't have to do that anymore. And part of me is like, oh, I really love the excuse of I got to go home and take my dog out, and I don't have that anymore. But I still catch myself, and that's not the only thing. It's, I still walk through the grocery store past the dog treat section and look at the treats that I got her and think, well, I don't have to buy those right now. But my brother has 2 dogs, and he's the same way. He'll never have less than 2 dogs, probably for the same reason you said, Ashley, is like, I can't imagine him ever coming home to a house without them. Yeah. It's just not for anyone who's grown up with dogs, especially, or just loves animals. It is it's definitely a different home. Obviously, like my house is much cleaner now, but like,
Same.
that's probably the only thing, that's probably the only benefit. Everything else is kind of missing that little bit of unconditional love and joy that they bring all day, every day.
Yeah. It's amazing the imprint they leave on you. And I think they're part of your life to make you a better person.
I agree. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for my dog, Isabel. Just so wild thought, because they don't, actually speak words to us, and to think that like another being can have such a massive impact on who we are as a person without actually saying anything to us verbally is just, obviously we communicate with them in so many different ways, but
I love the Care Bear stare when you can just like look into their eyes and they just look at you and you're just like, oh my God, this is the best.
Yep, they know. They intuitively know so much about us.
Yeah. I've been meaning to read that book that's like they're more than your chat. I don't forget what it's called, but it's basically like I'm pretty sure it explores how like your dog is a lot more of you or says a lot more about you than you think. I gotta look it up and I'll come back to all of you. But I don't think I was like I'm not ready to like not ready to have the realness of that yet or the truth of what that might be in that book.
That's so true. You're like, I don't know. I don't need to know the truth telling behind that.
Yes.
No.
There's a book called The Other End of the Leash that I have been meaning to read that just explains kind of the history of dog and human relationships and behaviors and why they do certain things that they do as it relates to humans and not with other animals. But I know there's so many interesting books out there on like dog evolution and humans.
They're just so smart. And they're so innocent, right? Like there's no malice in them. There's no meanness. They just make you happy. So you could have the worst day ever and you walk in the house and there they are. Tail is going. They're super excited and you just forget about like all the stupid nonsense.
Yeah. What was, other than obviously getting Violet, was there anything else that like really helped you in healing after losing Ginger?
Yeah, there was once I got back into going to the shelter, that really helped. I also invited any volunteer that wanted to bring a shelter dog on a field trip over to my house for the use of the backyard. So it was just nice to have a 4-legged friend running around and enjoying everything that Gigi enjoyed, right? And we had quite a few characters in the backyard, that's for sure. I remember we had one of the volunteers brought over Flynn, and he was is he got adopted, which was great, but like, he was a boy that was super sweet but didn't know his own strength. He was probably like a 75-pound pitty, and he was having the best time running around. I have all of the chew toys, all of the squeaky balls. I have frosty paws so that they can have a little ice cream. And Flynn was just running, and having a great time. And he rolled the ball into our pool. And both Marisa and I looked at each other and we're like, what's going to happen? And he edged closer to the pool. And honestly, he looked at the two of us and just jumped right in.
That's hilarious.
And Flynn could not swim. So then Marisa and I are both jumping in the pool, like in our, fully clothed, sneakers on and everything. And I'm like, she's grabbing him by the collar to pull him out. And I've got his rear end. And I'm like, oh boy, please do not be upset with me. Right. But it was just that interaction that I felt good because I was still interacting with dogs that needed love and care. Right.
That might have been his first time trying to swim too.
It was. And then he immediately rolled the ball back into the pool and jumped in again. So
of course. He's like, I'm going to get this down while I have access to a pool.
And I'm like, Flynn, you can't swim, buddy, because he was going down like a sinker.
He's just 75 pounds of muscle. It's not floating. Yeah.
But it was that kind of interactions and that helped me to move forward. It just made me happy. I wasn't sad when I was interacting with them. And that really helped out a lot.
More happy moments.
Yes.
That's really great that you're there for the shelter and offering them an opportunity to do stuff like that. That's really nice.
Thanks.
We love our shelter dogs.
Oh my goodness, yes. And all my favorites just got adopted, so that's really good.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Not to distract from Ginger, and obviously you were just talking about how the shelter was such a seemingly an integral part of your healing. Is there, obviously there's some realities of volunteering at the shelter, and I just wonder if there's some aspects of pet grief or the grief of Ginger or just grief in general that, come up as a result of volunteering and things like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there are some wonderful days at the shelter, and then there are times when you just come home mentally exhausted because it is the shelter. You can't make it look pretty, right? And it makes you sad and think about, it's so sad when those kids are there for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. And you can only do so much.
You can only do so much, and you want to do more.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't. And it makes you think about, sometimes I'm like, did I do right by Ginger, right? Should I have, sometimes it makes you second guess did you miss something towards the end, right? Especially when you see some of the shape that some of these dogs come in, right? You see the bait dogs that are there, and it's just wow.
Is there still a lot of that happening?
In Buffalo? Yes, unfortunately.
I keep hoping that humanity is going to wake up and start to realize that exploiting innocent creatures is not
it's
terrible.
I just don't think until our laws catch up with the fact that
right.
They're a little bit lagging. I mean, some cases have been successful to an extent, I guess, but they can just breed them like crazy, sell them for whatever they want, and then dump them if they don't sell, or use them for other things. It's just I don't know the statistics on whether Buffalo is worse than other places or anything like that, but it's crazy. I definitely was rose tinted glasses going into volunteering. I mean, I had like a healthy dose of like understanding of like, you're not going to just walk a bunch of golden retrievers, like
Yeah.
like we do get those. I'm not saying we don't, but like it's not like it's not always sunshine and roses. It certainly is a lot of kisses and a lot of love, but like they're the way in which they come to us is. I mean, I feel like that was like the thing for me. Like I knew they would be in like a state at times, but it also teaches you just how loyal they are.
Yeah.
Like
And forgiving.
they loyal,
Totally.
forgiving. Like
Yeah.
how are they not?
Right?
They just still love you so much, and it's
They
like
do.
despite this garbage human and how they treated them.
Right.
But it didn't bring a little bit of a different angle of what I would classify as pet grief in terms of day to day at the shelter and volunteering in this animal rescue world. You see a lot of shit. It's not just like our shelter; it's just generally animal rescue.
I have not been volunteering at the shelter where I got Isabel on. I would like to. It's a little far from my house, so I need to try and fold it into my schedule. But emotionally, I have a hard time with it because I'm an empath generally. And for some reason, my whole life, I feel like I've absorbed animal pain almost more than humans, which is kind of crazy. But my brother first adopted his dog Jada, she was a pet mix, and she was just the most amazing dog. And after she came into our lives, I like dove deep into pit bulls and trying to understand like this, non-breed breed and why there are so many of them. And I started learning about, all the rescues and the dog fighting and everything. And that's why I ended up adopting Isabel, because she was a pit mix. And I know that the shelters are overrun with them. But I was at the time still a member of Facebook, and I was just getting infiltrated with so much like sad, awful, like abuse stories and dog fighting stories. And I really struggled with that. And so I think part of me fears getting back involved in like rescue and shelter, because I don't know if I can emotionally handle all the pain, even though the dogs are so resilient and like so forgiving and so loving. I like assume they're in significant pain and they're suffering. And so I need to get over that, because I know for a fact it's better for them that we're there, that you're there and you're helping them.
Yeah.
And they're not harping on their past.
No.
They really can recover and heal somehow so much easier than us.
Yes.
They adapt like.
Yeah, it's
so
remarkable.
It
I
really
would like
is.
to be more like that.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to be more
Right?
like the dog.
Yeah.
I need to be more forgiving.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It happened, and that's okay, and move on.
Yeah.
That's just like how they live.
Yeah. They do.
They're the best.
It's so funny, because not funny, but it's ironic, because they go through some of these kids go through so much, right? And half the time you don't even know their full backstory, and sometimes you're better off not knowing, because it just, you just want to help them and be with them now, not because I truly believe they can feel your energy and your aura, right? So when you get
100%.
stressed or if you're angry, they feel that, and they don't need that. What they need is your love and your care.
Yeah. Is there, for anyone who is listening to this and may have just lost their dog or another pet, was there anything that you would find particularly useful for them or recommend for them in moving forward?
For me, it was, I just needed to follow my mind and my heart. you start reading about how to deal with with this type of grief, and everybody has an opinion, right? Oh, you need to wait a year. Oh, you need to wait 6 months. Oh, you shouldn't get the same breed that you had. Like, and it's meant with, well wishes when they're trying to be supportive, but you really just have to say thanks, but discard what people are telling you and just go with what you want to do and how you want to move on. And you move on whatever works best for you, right? When you find it, you stick with it and you keep going. Don't worry about, just be you. And
that's really nice. Tune into how you're feeling.
Yeah. And just, always remember the fond memories, the great, like we have pictures all over the house of Gigi.
Yeah.
And
I'm so about that.
And at different stages of life, puppy, the awkward adolescent where she looks, and you just look at them and everything, all the pictures, they still make you smile. I miss her, but I'm never sad because I know she's around, and I see her, or I see her pictures. That was the other thing when between June and October of 2023, I swore I would see her everywhere in the house,
See and hear.
Yes.
And you hear them walking.
Yeah, and it was, you do, and it was to me, it was comforting. Some people might think that's like, well, I don't want to go through that, but like, maybe you won't. I don't know. Everyone deals with it differently, but it made me feel like she was still around.
Yeah. She didn't leave. Until you were ready. And I think there's something there about, a spirit being with you until you're ready to let it go.
Yeah.
Well, that's really nice. I like that. That's what I'm trying to do, is follow my intuition.
Yeah.
Don't let the noise tell you how to feel and think.
Oh. It's interesting when you take a step back, and I think this is for pretty much any situation or significant change in your life. People are always so open to provide you with what you should be doing.
Oh, yeah.
No, yeah.
And I really never like to use the word should, because that's like you're telling somebody, right? Like, you should be doing this, or you should go and do that. How is that helpful?
Yeah, should and just.
Yes.
And there's a third word, I forget. But definitely should and just. Like, you should just take your advice yourself.
Right.
Mind your business.
Exactly.
Mind your business.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I think that's important for grief, because everybody deals with things differently,
So differently, right? And there's no right or wrong way. Well, there's always a right way. There's never a wrong way to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's how you figure out how to move forward.
Yeah, it's your story and your life. Well, I think this was a lovely conversation, Kristin.
Me too.
I would love for you to send us a couple pictures in email, if you would.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Of Ginger and Violet.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So we can see how cute they are, especially as puppies. German Shepherds are
so cute.
Some of the cutest puppies around.
Gigi was sable, so when we got her, she was all sable color, except for she had the black mask on her face.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
She was so
pretty,
adorable. And then as she grew, she got darker, but she was still sable. She was 85 pounds. She was a long, strong girl. And Violet, we call her Little Potato because she's just like a tiny shepherd. I'm we need to get you bigger because you're too small. I need a big dog.
I like her.
Oh my God.
She sounds like a good character.
Do you have any final stories on Ginger you want to share before we?
Yeah. One favorite story.
I mean, the table was always my favorite because everyone called her the table dancer. They're like, "How's the table dancer doing?" I'm like, "Good." But yeah, she was also a very good protector. This one time, she and I were in our backyard, and I don't know what was going on, but somebody was in the house behind us was trying to hop the fence between the two garages and cut through to our street.
Oh my gosh.
And Ginger went right over and just started barking, scared the living bejesus out of this person. They turned around, hopped the fence, went back the other way. And then she just came trotting up to me, so proud, like, "Look what I did."
Oh my
Love it.
gosh. Well, she sounds amazing. And thank you so much for sharing her with us.
Yes. I look forward to seeing some of her pictures, and I'm so glad that you you had 10 lovely years with her. That's definitely a blessing.
Yeah.